obtaining insights from your data without the need to having to engage other parties to do a data extraction and manipulate the data for you. These are particularly of interest for those people who are, let's say, managing a portfolio. So if you could imagine a merchant acquirer has customers across many different industry verticals. You, as an acquirer, might like to understand, the weight of your client portfolio towards certain industry verticals. Some that come to mind are you would be interested in understanding your payment volumes or the weighting of your payment volumes towards, say, airlines and accommodation during a time of travel restrictions. You might want to understand your exposure to the likes of pharmaceutical and biotech when there's a health pandemic. You might want to understand the proportion of your portfolio exposed to, petrochemical when there's a boom in alternate fuels and energy sources. So within a matter of a few clicks, you can get those insights and understand those, proportions, and for you to make informed business decisions on. Let's take a look at those now. So for this type of analysis, you would enter our Explore zone. And this contains every single transaction and every data element in that transaction at your fingertips, okay? But the amount of data is overwhelming, so there's some powerful analytical tools and refinement tools at your fingertips to be able to get down to something that's a little more user-friendly and manageable. So this is all my transactions in the last 15 minutes, but there's way too much information here. About 100 columns wide and tens of thousands of rows long. So let's refine that. Let's, from the filter menu, select only the fields we need. I'm going to remove what I don't, and I'm going to select what I need. Because I'm interested in understanding my exposure to selected industry verticals, that's what I'm selecting. I select the amount of the payment and an account of the payments. So this could be a scenario whereby, if we rewind to the time when COVID first broke, I might want to do a very quick analysis to understand my exposure to, say, airlines and accommodation and lodging in particular, okay? So I've just taken a snapshot of the last 15 minutes worth of transactions, split them into merchant codes, dollar value, and I've got these will become a count here. Let me just reorder this into something that's a little more user-friendly for me. So what you can see here, I've now just got 3 columns to contend with. That's much more manageable, but still the row length is way too much. So let me roll up all of these transactions into their respective merchant category codes. I simply select from the menu to group by similar values, and it's going to do that in the background, and I should come up with about 13 rows of data here. So I had all that, tens of thousands of transactions and 100 odd data elements, all now synthesized into a much more manageable kind of packet of information here that lists the merchant categories, the volume of payments that have gone through in the last 15 minutes, and their respective value. So that's great. I can work with this data, but it still doesn't give me a sense of the relative weightings of my business to these various industries. So I'm going to visualize that. From a drop-down menu, I've got a whole range of chart types I can select from. I'm going to select a pie chart, and in doing so, I'm going to add a legend, and I'm going to add some labels, and importantly, I'm going to add a percentage so that I don't have to calculate it myself. Okay, so what I've got here now is a pie chart and the corresponding data table. I'm just going to emphasize the chart and remove the data table. So quite quickly, I've been able to look at and sort all the transactions running through my systems in the last 15 minutes, condense them down to this one pie chart to give me a sense of the exposure to the industry verticals who are my customers. And quite quickly, I can see from here from this list that I have, purple is my exposure to airlines. So about 20% of my payments are from airlines, and lodging is about another 30%, 37%. So those two combine about 20 and about 37. So I've got between 50 and 60% of my payment amounts are from those two industry verticals. Now, at the time of COVID breaking, I would have a sense that the travel restrictions haven't applied yet, and so this kind of informs me that spend hasn't started to reduce in those particular merchant categories yet. So I'm not feeling any impact. But to be doubly sure, I can baseline that result over a longer period of time. So performing the same analysis that I've just walked you through now, but going back over 6 months, here's one I prepared earlier. Here's 6 months worth of data, and I'm looking at those same industries, airlines and lodging. And again, in a proportional sense, they're still between 50 and 60% of my business. So what I can conclude from this is that roughly 50 to 60% of the value of my transactions right now are coming from those two industries. That's very much in line with what I've experienced over the last 6 months, which says to me I haven't yet begun to feel any impact from any travel restrictions. In addition, because I have such a large weighting, I would probably take some further action, but just based on this first pass in terms of what is my risk exposure, I now know that 50 to 60% of my business come from those two selected industries, and now I can take some action and some business decisions off the back of that.